For a year, she cleaned that study every morning at 10 past 7. Then one morning, she went cold and stopped. Her name is Ava Smith. She is black, an American far from home, a housekeeper in the mansion of the most dangerous man in Seoul. Every day, she wears the same plain uniform. Every day, she enters the one room no other servant may touch. The man who owns that room is Kang Jae-won. They call him the Black Falcon. A dark bird is inked up his throat to the collarbone. His suits are tailored like blades. He never speaks to her. But each morning she fills a second coffee cup, and some mornings his eyes lift to her hands and stay too long. She dusted a high shelf. Her fingers found grit, then something harder. A sliver of black plastic, a hair of copper wire, wedged where it did not belong. She pulled a proud book from the row. Behind it sat a small black box with a pinhole eye. Someone had cut a hollow into that shelf. Someone had set an ear inside the one room he believed was his alone. Someone with soft feet and time. And if it were found, it would be found on the foreign girl who cleaned the study. She slid the book back exactly as it sat. The cut in the wood was fresh. Whoever did this was still in the house, still smiling at breakfast, and she could not say a single word. Before starting the story, comment down below where you are watching from and what time it is there. If stories of karma, love, and hidden truths move you, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a member and help our channel. The cloth moved in slow circles across the desk, and Ava Smith worked faster than the clock allowed. 7:10 in the morning. She had 8 minutes before the household stirred. 8 minutes inside the one room no other servant was permitted to touch. She lifted the bronze falcon from the corner of the desk and wiped beneath it. Then she turned it, without thinking, so its cast eyes faced the tall window and the gray soul light. She always turned it that way. She had never asked herself why. Her phone buzzed against her hip. A message from Baltimore. Maya, they moved the tuition deadline up. Friday, I'm so sorry. Ava set the falcon down. She read the words twice, as if the second reading might soften them. Friday, she said to the empty study. She typed back with one thumb. It's handled. Don't drop the class. She hit send before she could count what she actually had in the account, which was not enough, which had not been enough for months. Her sister was 22 and one semester from a nursing degree, and Ava had promised their mother a great many things at a hospital bed 3 years ago. The thin gold necklace still sat at her throat. She touched it once and got back to work. She smoothed the leather blotter. She squared the fountain pen. On the low shelf beside the desk sat a second coffee cup, clean, upside down, where it always waited. Kang Jae-won took his coffee black at 7:30. He never spoke to her while she poured, but the second cup was hers to fill, and some mornings, when she set it down, his eyes lifted from his papers to her hands and stayed there a moment longer than a man's eyes should. Neither of them had ever named it. That was the arrangement. In a house like this, a name was a weapon you handed to someone else. Footsteps in the corridor, hard-soled. Ava straightened. Mrs. Han Yun-suk filled the doorway, gray bun tight, keys chiming at her waist. You're still in here. Finishing, Mrs. Han? The old woman's eyes moved over the desk, the shelf, the girl. Mr. Kang trusts this room to you. Do you understand what that means, in this house? Yes. It means when something is wrong in here, it is wrong with you. She let the sentence sit, dust the upper shelf. He noticed it yesterday. Then she was gone, keys fading down the hall. Ava breathed out. She dragged the small step stool to the bookshelf and climbed, cloth in hand, running it along the spines of books no one read. Her fingers found grit, then something else. A hardness under the desk edge, below her, catching the light. She stepped down and crouched. A sliver, black, thin as a fingernail paring, wedged where the desk's underside met the frame. She pried it free. Plastic. A broken corner of something, with a hair of copper wire threaded through it. Nothing that belonged to a pen or a paperweight. Nothing that belonged to this desk at all. She held it in her palm and went cold. Downstairs, a door opened. Voices. The day was starting, and she was still crouched under the desk of the most dangerous man in Seoul, holding a piece of something broken. She should have put it in her apron and walked out. Instead, she looked up at the bookshelf, at the row of untouched spines, at the one book that sat a half-inch prouder than the rest. She reached for it. The book did not slide out clean. It caught, then came, and behind it, seated in a shallow gap cut into the wood, was a small black rectangle, no bigger than a matchbox. A pinhole on its face, a thread of the same copper wire trailing into the dark behind the shelf. A transmitter. Someone had opened this shelf, cut this hollow, and set an ear inside the one room Kang Jae-won believed was his alone. Someone with time, someone with access, someone who moved through this house on soft feet and knew when the study stood empty. Ava's own soft feet had brought her here at 7:10 every morning for a year. Her hands understood the arithmetic before her mind did. If this thing was found, it would be found in her room. The one who cleaned the study. The foreign girl. The one with a sister and a deadline and a reason to sell secrets to whoever paid. Mrs. Han's voice came back to her, flat and certain. When something is wrong in here, it is wrong with you. She did not touch the transmitter. She slid the book back to its half-inch pride, exactly as it had sat. Her fingertip traced the edge of the shelf where the wood had been cut, and the cut was fresh, pale against the stain. No dust settled in it yet. Days old, maybe hours. Whoever had done this was still in the house, still moving through its corridors, still smiling at breakfast. The step stool, she had left it against the shelf. She folded it and carried it back to the corner where it lived, and she wiped the place her hands had touched, because in this house, a fingerprint was a confession. The broken fragment was still in her fist. She looked at it, then at the door, then at the bronze falcon facing the window as if it too were listening. Down the corridor, the hard-soled steps returned, 2 sets this time, and under them, lower, a voice she knew, the security chief, Han Dae-sik, calm the way, still water is calm, before something breaks its surface. Check the study first, he was saying, before Mr. Kang comes down. Ava closed her hand around the fragment until the copper bit her skin. She waited until the corridor emptied, then walked to the study as if the floor were glass. The card burned in her fist. She had memorized the room in the way you memorize a person you cannot trust. Every drawer, every seam, the small green eye of the camera above the door. The transmitter sat where she had left it, wedged under the base of the bronze falcon. She turned the bird toward the window, the way she always did, so anyone glancing at the feed would see only a housekeeper fussing over dust. Her thumb pressed the fragment beside the device. 2 pieces now, 2 chances. She could not tell Jae-won. That was the cruelty of it. He came down each morning trusting the walls of his own house, and the walls were the danger. Dae-sik held the security access. Dae-sik decided which footage lived and which quietly disappeared. Say one word inside these rooms and it would be gone by breakfast, and so would she. So she protected him the only way left to her, in silence. She dusted the shelves and moved the falcon and left the transmitter breathing under its base, gathering whatever it was Dae-sik wanted Jae-won never to hear. "You're in here often," Jae-won said one evening from the doorway. She did not startle. "The books hold dust, sir." He crossed to the desk, straightened a spine on the shelf that did not need straightening. "My father used to say, a clean room hides more than a dirty one." A pause. "Do you believe that?" "I believe the shelves are clean, sir." Something moved behind his eyes. Not suspicion, closer to hunger. He was a man surrounded by people paid to agree with him, and here was one who answered sideways. He let her go. She felt his gaze on her back all the way to the stairs. The nights grew narrow after that. She learned day 6 rounds, the gap between the 3rd floor sweep and the return past the study, 9 minutes. She timed her breathing to it. The night it broke, she was 1 minute late. She had the transmitter in her palm, still warm, when the corridor light did not fall the way it should. A shape stood between her and the stairs. The steel watch caught what little glow there was. "Late for the linens," Dowie Sik said. I lost track of the hour. He came closer, unhurried, the way a man moves when he owns the ground. "Show me your hands." She opened them. The card lay flat on her palm, small and stupid and damning. She had left the real transmitter tucked back under the falcon a breath before he came. Habit, luck. She would never know which. He took the card. His fingers closed around her wrist to keep her still while he looked, and they did not loosen. They pressed. She felt each one separately, 4 blunt points grinding toward the bone. "You have a sister," he said, not a question. "Maya, 3rd year, nice campus." The corridor tilted. She kept her feet. "Whatever this is," he went on, calm, "it stays with you. It reaches Mr. Kang. It reaches her first. Do we understand the arrangement?" "Yes," she said. The word came out even. That cost her everything she had. He released her. He turned the card once in the light as if reading a receipt, then walked off toward the cameras he answered to, and no one else did. She stood in the dark until her legs agreed to move. In her room, she pulled her sleeve back. 4 marks, already darkening, the shape of a hand that had held her like an object it might return. She stopped going into the study. It was the only defense she had. If she never entered, she gave Dasik nothing new to catch, and the transmitter kept breathing under the falcon, whether she watched it or not. But a house notices absence the way it notices noise. Jae-won noticed first. He began to find her in other rooms, the landing, the long gallery, and each time she angled away, kept the counter or a chair between them, answered short, and left quick. She wore long sleeves now, buttoned at the wrist, in a house that never asked its staff why. "You avoid that room," he said one afternoon. "There's little to clean there, sir. You cleaned it every day for a month." She had no sideways answer left. She dipped her head and went. He read it wrong. She saw it settle in him. The belief that she had grown afraid of him, of the tattoo he did not hide, and the men who came at night, and the name people whispered in the market. He drew back. He stopped seeking her out. He held doors and looked past her, and gave her the distance he thought a frightened woman wanted, and it was the loneliest kind of mercy, because it was aimed at the wrong wound. It ended in the kitchen, over a cup. She was handing him coffee when Dasik's voice carried from the hall, giving an order in that flat, calm tone, and her hand simply forgot itself. The cup slipped. It struck the tile and burst white across the floor, and she bent for the pieces before she thought, and her sleeve slid back from her wrist. He saw. He was crouched across from her, close, and there was nowhere for the bruises to hide. 4 dark ovals ringed in yellow-green, the unmistakable grammar of a grip. He went very still. The easy authority drained out of his face and left something rawer underneath. Who did that? It was not a question a man asks. It was one he intends to answer for. She closed her hand over the shards until the edges bit, the same as she had held the copper fragment, the same steadying pain. Down the hall, the steel watch was coming closer, one measured step at a time. She looked up at him, and her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Please don't ask me that here." Jae-won stepped back from her, and the space he left felt like a verdict. He turned toward the window instead, hands in his pockets, and let the silence do the asking she had begged him not to. That night, after the house had gone dark, Ava returned to his study to finish the shelves. It was the only room with a lock she was trusted to hold. She worked slowly, dusting spines that never gathered dust, and when she reached the desk, she let her fingers rest against the bronze falcon as if steadying herself. A folder sat under it, half open, pulled from a drawer someone had forgotten to close. Dasik's handwriting ran along the tab. She should have walked away. She opened it instead. Photographs. Maya on a campus quad, backpack on one shoulder, laughing at something outside the frame. Maya at a bus stop. Maya crossing a street in a coat, Ava had never seen her wear. She turned each print over. Dates. All of them stamped in the corner. All of them from spring. Ava counted backward and felt the floor tilt. Spring. Months before she had ever touched the Falcon. Months before she had found the transmitter. Before she had understood a single thing about this house. They had photographed her sister an ocean away, while Ava was still folding towels and believing she was invisible. She had thought her silence was a shield she chose to raise. It had never been hers to raise or lower. Maya had been marked first. Ava had simply been the leverage they installed later. She put the folder back exactly as it had lain. She lined the Falcon over the corner of the tab. Her hands were steady now, in the way hands go steady when the rest of a person has stopped. She did not sleep. In the morning, J1 found her in the corridor and drew her into the small library, the one room the cameras did not fully reach. He had learned that much already, which told her how far his own quiet investigation had gone. "I'm sending you home," he said. "Your sister. I can move you both tonight." "No?" He blinked, as if the word were a language he had not expected from her. "Ava, I've seen your wrists. I know what this house is doing to you. You don't know all of it. Then tell me here." "It's safe." "Nothing is safe." She kept her voice low and even, the voice of a woman reading a grocery list. "If I vanish tonight, he'll know. He'll know someone told you. And the first thing a man like that does when he's exposed is close every door he can still reach." Jaewon's jaw worked. "I'll handle day sick." "He photographed my sister in April." The words came out flat, and flatness was the only way she could carry them. "Before I knew anything, before there was anything to tell. Do you understand? Sending me away doesn't save her. It signs her name." He went very still. She watched the calculation move behind his eyes, watched him arrive where she had already been standing for hours. "You want to stay," he said slowly, "inside this. I want to be the one who decides." She heard her mother's necklace shift against her collarbone as she straightened. "If I run, I'm what he says I am, a problem he removes. If I stay, I'm still a housekeeper he isn't watching closely enough. That's the only advantage either of us has." "It's not an advantage. It's a leash." "Then it's my leash." She held his gaze. "Don't take that from me too." Something in him gave way, not agreement, closer to grief. He nodded once, and the nod cost him. But the house had already begun to tighten around her. By noon, Mrs. Han informed her, keys jingling, apologetic, that her duties had been reassigned. No more study, no more upstairs. The East Wing was closed to her now. An order from security, Yoon-suk said, and would not meet her eyes when she said it. Dae-sik passed her on the stair an hour later. He did not stop. He only slowed, let his gaze rest a beat too long on her sleeve, on the wrist beneath it, and moved on. It was enough. It was a message written in the only alphabet he used. Her phone was checked that afternoon. She found it 2 centimeters from where she'd left it, screen wiped clean of the smudge her thumb always made. When she tried to call Maya, the line rang once and dropped. She tried again. It dropped again. Somewhere in the walls of this house, a switch had been thrown, and she was the room it had been thrown in. By evening, Ava understood the shape of the trap fully. She could not leave without dooming her sister. She could not stay without being slowly erased. She could not speak inside the house, could not call outside it, could not reach the one man trying to help her without leading his own dogs to him. Every door she pushed swung into a wall. She sat on the narrow bed in the servants' quarters and pressed her mother's necklace between 2 fingers until the clasp bit her skin. Rock bottom, she thought, was not the loud part, it was this. A quiet room, a dead phone, a sister smiling in photographs she had never posed for. Then she stood. She went to the laundry, where the cameras watched the door and nothing else, and she knelt at the machine she serviced every day. Behind the lint housing, where no man in a suit would ever put his hand, she had already loosened a panel. From her sleeve, she drew the thing she had taken from beneath the Falcon 3 nights ago and never mentioned, not to Jaewon, not to anyone. not the transmitter. The tiny card slotted inside its base, the record of every call it had carried. She sealed it behind the panel and pressed the screws home with a coin. If there was no way out, then she would stop looking for the door. She would burn the house down from the one room they had let her keep. She started with the bronze falcon. Jaewon found it 3 days later, not the ashes she meant to leave behind. He lifted the statue to move it off the desk and felt the seam under its base give way. A small transmitter dropped into his palm, wrapped in a torn strip of housekeeping cloth. He held it to the light. He understood the way a man understands a wound only after the bleeding stops. She had not run from him. She had pulled the device out of his study and hidden it where only she would think to look. He called Minjun. He did not call Dasik. Pull every transfer routed through the Busan account, Jaewon said. 6 months back. Minjun frowned. That's Han's ledger. I know whose it is. The numbers came by midnight. Money leaving the organization in clean, quiet threads, each one landing in an account that did not exist last spring. Under the transfers sat the recordings Ava had copied before she stopped looking for the door. A voice giving instructions, a date, a place. The old family hotel where the memorial for Jaewon's father was held every year, lights low, guards thinned out of respect. It was never surveillance, it was a coup dressed as one. Dasik meant to kill him at the ceremony and hand the blame to a rival, then take the chair while the body was still warm. And Ava had been marked first for one reason. Jaewon had begun trusting her more than the men who carried his name. The memorial went forward. It had to. Candles lined the hotel corridor. Jaewon stood before his father's portrait, the falcon ring cold on his hand. Then the lights cut. A voice barked a false order into every earpiece. Fall back, secure the exits. And the guards peeled away from him like water off glass. A side door stood open that should have been locked. A man crossed the dark in hotel staff white. Not Dasik. A second one Jaewon had never counted. Ava saw the watch before she saw the face. Steel, catching the last candlelight. The same watch she had seen reflected in the transmitter's metal the night Dasik walked into the study thinking no one was there. Jaewon. The name tore out of her. He turned. The shot went wide, splintering the portrait frame where his skull had been. Then a hand closed on her wrist, hard, the grip she already knew. You should have let go the first time, Dasik said. She did not pull away. She planted her feet and let him hold her, because holding her kept him in the room. The light snapped back. Jaewon stood at the corridor's mouth, Minjun and 4 men behind him, the second assassin already on his knees. The organization's elders filed in from the memorial hall, drawn by the noise, robes, and gray heads and hard eyes. Let her go, Jaewon said. Come closer, and I break it, Dasik answered, calm as a clock. Jaewon took a step. Ava spoke over him. I'm not leaving. He looked at her. I want him to hear what I found. She said it to the room, not to Dasik. She named the Busan account. She named the dates. Minjun laid a phone on the table and the recording played into the silence. Dasik's own voice, arranging the death of the man whose father they had all come to mourn. The transfers scrolled up beside it, thread by clean thread. The grip on her wrist loosened. Not from mercy, from the weight of every old man in the room, turning to look at the traitor at once. Jaewon drew nothing. He could have. Everyone in the corridor expected it. The quick answer, the falcon doing what falcons do. Instead, he let the numbers keep falling. You wanted the chair, he said. Sit down. Dasik fell that night, but not by Jaewon's hand. He fell by a ledger and a voice, and a woman who had refused to let go. The elders took him. That was worse. They cleared the corridor near dawn. Jaewon found Ava by the open side door, rubbing the mark on her wrist. Stay, he said. As what, your housekeeper? She almost smiled. You'll thank the help and go back to your ring. Then stay as. Ask me, she said, when you don't sign my paycheck. She left the job that week. Mrs. Hahn pressed the keys into someone else's hands. Maya flew in from the States and slept on Ava's new floor, and asked no questions Ava wasn't ready to answer. 3 months later, he was across the street when she came out of work. No car, no men, no earpiece. Just J1, hands in his coat, waiting the way ordinary people wait. He did not tell her anything. He asked, "Would you have dinner with me?" Yes. The word came easy. Then she said his name, J1, the first time, and it landed between them like something set down at last, not handed over. Months after that, she walked into the study as a guest. Simple dress, no uniform, the thin gold necklace still at her throat. He watched her from the doorway and, for once, said nothing at all. She crossed to the desk. The bronze falcon sat where it always had, beak toward the room, toward the door, toward the men who came and went. She turned it to face the window. A bird facing the window looks like it knows it can. Fade to black. If this story moved you, stop for a moment and reflect. Have you ever been the one who saw what everyone else missed and had no safe way to say it out loud? Would you have stayed silent to protect someone who never once spoke your name? And when the bruises were hidden under long sleeves, would loyalty have won, or fear? Tell us your experiences and feelings in the comments. We read them all. And if you believe in stories about loyalty, silence, and courage, leave a like, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and click join to become a part of our community and help the channel.